Welcome to Replicraftplans.com. My name is Craig, and you've probably heard that cliche before, but I love the company so much I ended up buying it. With that being said, if you've ever purchased a set of Replicraft plans before, you will know that they're an absolute work of art and could hang next to the Mona Lisa without any issues. If this is your first time here, welcome, and if you're interested in early World War I aviation, you're in the right place, as Replicraft plans were basically put together from original aircraft factory drawings. With that being said, back in the 70s, Jim was an avid modeler. Back then, 1/5 scale was the standard scale, and he was really frustrated with what the so-called quality master plans were producing that had misalignments and various other issues. And this was so much so that he ended up putting together his own set of plans based off original aircraft factory drawings. Now, this had a number of challenges, obviously back in the 70s before the internet, but also there were typically 3 sets of drawings. The first one was by the designer, how the plane was designed. The second one was by the engineers on how it should be built. And this third set of plans was drawn by the factory and saying how it was actually built. And you mix that in with the war, rapid developments, the planes being tweaked, and there ended up being various different plan sets to work from. One of the issues that Jim also encountered was that there was missing plans. So if we take the SPAD 13 for example, the plan set he had was 90% complete, and with a band of other enthusiasts he was able to go and visit museums, take photographs, measurements, and effectively reverse engineer and fill in the missing 10%. So as I say, a lot of these plans represent the most complete set of drawings that you're able to get. The other challenge that he had, for example, was with the Sopwith, and initially there was no drawings for any of the metal fittings in the fuselage. And the reason is back in the day there were just boxes of them on the factory floor, so no drawings were needed. And it was only years and years later that Jim managed to obtain a copy of these factory drawings or manufactured drawings of these aircraft fuselage fittings, and with that he was able to update all of his Sopwith drawings to the point where they are now all complete. But that was a long time and a number of years worth of work and effort to get to that point. So with that being said, a couple of the plans do have a little errors in because of the changes, the different versions, and many of the builders I've spoken to said the errors are fairly small. They don't seem to remember it, but you know, they're fairly obvious when you get to that stage. And so one of the things and one of the appeals is for those that have built before is we would love to put together a little database and a little library of any or all errors or omissions in the plan. And that'll just make it a bit easier for the next person trying to build, whether it be a model or full scale, just so that we can have these issues highlighted. The other little appeal is for extra information. Jim has sold off some of his original aircraft factory drawings that he used to put his drawings together. Some of his drawings were based off of borrowed material that he didn't make a copy of, and we're very keen to collect a copy of original stuff, and not just the aircraft drawings. If there's stuff around the engines, you know, the engines, armaments for example, the guns, the bombs, how they were rigged, how certain things were built and techniques, it would be lovely to make sure that none of this information is lost and it is all collated and it's all available to those that are interested in studying it or looking into it. So if you do happen to have anything there, we would love to hear from you. With that being said, my involvement with Replicraft, I wrote off in 2012 to Jim, sent some dollars in an envelope, I got posted off. Couple weeks later had my plans in the post, and since then I've just thoroughly enjoyed spending many hours reading and studying and dreaming about them. A couple years back I met a gentleman that was building a SPAD 13, and he had some issues around the rigging wires, and trying to help I reached out to the various people I knew, including Jim, and asked him what information we were looking for. And Jim was kind enough to respond, but essentially said you know, in his early 90s he doesn't remember. It's a bit beyond him now, but the information is out there and available. And from that, a little dialogue ensued where we kind of mentioned the hours of joy I had, and really wanted to, at some stage, purchase the rest of his plans, because I'm sure they would be equally wonderful. And I just wanted to make sure that there's some kid or grandkid that had an interest in the business and would be continuing to provide plans. And sadly, as it turns out, they all had other interests and lives, and it was unlikely to happen. And several months of negotiation, I eventually ended up almost $3,000, $2,700 I think, buying a set of every single one of his plans. and said really from a selfish perspective, I'm sorted, but you know, I've had so much enjoyment out of them, and I'm sure many others would. It would be a hell of a sad to see the plans no longer available with Jim's passing. And very glad and very pleased to report, and as you've probably seen, we've managed to come to some agreement to make sure that these plans are still available. So gone over to California, we've managed to get his original drawings. These have all been scanned in, all cleaned up, so that they are looking beautiful. And one of the byproducts of that is that we're now also able to offer something slightly different. It's instead of his 1/5 scale, we've now got 1/10 scale, half the original size. It's a bit like a newspaper. And for those of you that aren't that interested in building, but you are just curious and wanting to see what they look like, it's a lot easier to work with those effectively 1/10 scale drawings, which are now available. In the fullness of time, we will be looking to make slightly bigger versions available for the modelers that are interested in a larger scale. But with that being said, I'm just delighted, as are many others I know, that the plans are still available, and there will be now for a number of years. And if there is anything there that tickles your fancy you're interested in, we would love to send you a copy so that you can study and enjoy it. If you are looking to build, we obviously would love to hear your story, and please do check the website, because over time we will have some of our new developments, but we'd also like to profile some of the builders, whether they be full scale or modelers, and just showcase some of the beautiful work that they've done based off Replicraft plans. With that being said, thank you so much for visiting, and I hope our paths cross at some stage. Cheers.